Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, you ready?
Just saying, I know the superintendent.
Yeah, and actually-
Stay on. Aren't you glad I came?
No.
We're good, we're good.
I'm happy that didn't have it in hand, but everybody ready?
Can't you just?
Exactly.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to call the this meeting of the Madison Public Schools Board of Education to an opening, and we will start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First on the agenda, we have our school/community session and any public participation. Do you have anyone in the public?
Going online?
No. You don't get to say the thing. Okay.
I'll say that.
Thank you. All right, next we have the Board of Education Student Representatives Report. So Brooke and Grace, welcome and thank you. Take it away.
So we have kind of a brief agenda, given we've been in exams all week, but we had the NEASC people come at the beginning of last week, and I thought it was a pretty good experience for everyone. I've had some people come into my classroom, some like personally interview me and ask just kind of some like basic questions, like how collaborative are your classes, or like how engaged are your teachers, things like that. But I thought it was a really good opportunity for some of the students to express some of their concerns or some of the things that they liked in the school, because, you know, Brooke and I have this opportunity, but there's not a lot of other students who can kind of have that say. So I think there was some really positive feedback, and some of my friends were coming up and being like, that was so cool. I got to tell them all the things that I want. So I thought that was nice, and they weren't disruptive or anything like that. And then we had the junior senior powder puff game tonight. The juniors won, fortunately. I didn't go to it. But it was 44-8. So
Wow.
I think we did like pretty well.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's positive. And then tomorrow is the Han Guilford football game. So I know our students are extremely excited. That's always a really good game for Han. The team's super good this year. So we're looking forward to that. We have some special things going on with like Guilford and Han collaborating. I know for like the Make-A-Wish Club, we're doing some things, and the cheer team is doing a joint performance. So it's nice to see like the different talents interacting.
Yeah, so as you know, exams are done, which is a big relief. But I know at least in the senior class, there's still a lot of tension going on. This is a pretty hectic time for college applications and everything. And if someone is not done applying, you gotta get all those supplements in. If you're already done, it's an awful waiting period. So I think this break is much needed for all of us. But I think everyone else is having a good time. All the tension is gone. But that's what's going on with us. Nothing, just a waiting game right now. But after the break, we have some cool performances going on. I know that the fall play Humbug, which is kind of around the Christmas Carol, those kind of themes, is happening on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of next week, which is a good way to get into the holiday spirit. And this is our first student performance that we're having this year. And this is just going to lead us into even more winter concerts and student concerts. There's going to be more dates and everything that are going to be in those Friday emails that you always get. But we're kind of hoping to get more students coming and watching, because I know the athletics, we've had obviously great student sections, but we're wanting even more to come to these like arts and everything like that. So we're trying to get more awareness out for those kind of things. So there it is.
Thank you. Any questions for our student reps? Have a question? No? Thank you very much. Congratulations on finishing your first trimester exams.
Thank you.
All right.
Seniors hang in there.
Yeah,
Every deadline that comes is stressful.
Every 2 weeks, there's something, but we're getting through.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Have
Thank you.
a great Thanksgiving. Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
You as well.
Thank you.
Good break.
Thank you.
Okay, tonight we have a special guest. We have our Board of Selectmen liaison, Scott Murphy. And he would like to report to us on some happenings at the Board of Selectmen.
Sorry for the hiatus, guys, but I'm grateful to be here to my favorite board, the Board of Ed. Well, I guess the Board of Select when I need to. One comment on that student thing though. So my son was the Board of Ed rep, I don't know if you remember,
Yeah.
many moons ago, and he brought bacon back. So I'm just giving a shout out to my son. That was a big deal, so.
Yeah.
Bring back the bacon.
Right? He had a whole campaign of it. That's kind of fun. The Board of Selectmen meeting on the 18th was a pretty eventful one. We kind of touched on a bunch of, I think, very community relevant issues. I mean, sort of right off the bat, we do the same thing, consent agenda and all that. We talked about the proclamation where we're coming to you guys. So we approved the proclamation for Hand and the Blue Ribbon. So that's exciting. Congratulations, by the way, from all of us, but we'll see you on the 10th for that. I know everybody is probably going to be pretty disappointed in this one, but we did close the aviation committee. So I don't know if anybody was looking to get involved in the town, but that one is now done. We talked a little bit about a leash law for your dogs and I didn't know all these different things, that there was collars you can put on your dog that are electronic, that is actually no leash versus the ones that say, I know, there's a lot of technology now, so they're looking to put something in place.
We do have a leash law.
Yeah, but they're actually trying to upgrade it now,
Oh,
I guess, so, yeah, to make sure that A, people are following it, but B, also modify it to the current technologies that are out there, so. The town engineer actually came, Rob Russo, he's our new town engineer, for those that don't know, and gave an incredible update on a whole host of projects that are going on in town. So for those that who don't know, in construction right now, we have Garvin Point. So we're redoing the whole point. There's been some information on Facebook, I think good, the bad and the ugly, but we are actually doing it for good reason, to save the point, most importantly. The Madison Downtown Center project, the last 2 poles are coming down. So that's pretty exciting. So that'll
Before the
then help
holidays?
us. What's that?
Before the holidays?
Yeah, they're coming down on 12/2. Yep. So that was a huge, milestone to then move into the design of the next phase, design 3, which will then take that whole median all the way down to Route 1. To Route 79. So right at that intersection where Madison Service Center is. We're doing some improvements right now, pedestrian wise, the Route 79 sidewalks. Those are getting worked on. There's another bridge, Flintlock Bridge, that is in construction as well. In design right now, we've got a whole host of projects that are happening right now. The Garnet Park Bridge, Middle Beach and Island Avenue flood mitigation, which is a hot topic for a lot of people. US 1 connectivity, so crosswalks there. And then the Cops and Werpus Road repavement, which is obviously going to impact a ton of people. And then interesting, just added to the planned list for projects is Scotland Ave roadway improvements, which will include some sidewalks. And that is a grant that will help offset a bunch of these projects as well.
Scott, I'm sorry, the Werpus Road and Cops Road or Copes Road, however you choose to pronounce it.
Yep.
Is that expected to be done before the school year begins and the buses are?
I don't know. My guess is yes, but I don't know. I can find out.
That could be messy if not, but.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a few of those things going
Yeah.
on. So yeah, a little coordination is good.
Yeah.
Next big topic, so that was his report. Next big topic, and a hot one at that, was related to you guys. I know, and certainly appreciate you guys sending in your support for the Green Hill sidewalk. So there's sort of this debate of, does the school budget pay for it? Do we use this new grant that we're likely to get to offset a larger sidewalk, not just the one in front of the new school? This is the elementary school. So you guys supported it. Chief Drum supported it, came to the meeting, and then also the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee shared their support and had some data for us as well, which was super helpful. We didn't take any action on it, but we're going down that path and trying to figure out what the next steps are design-wise. People are very worried about a couple of trees and a couple of properties, but even a couple of the property owners were there on site for the meeting. And I think we're kind of working through the issues, so I think we're getting there. But we'll have to see where that plays out. There's still, discussion of hybrids and how far the sidewalk goes. The idea right now is I think to connect it, from the school all the way up to Camp Headley on Cops, so north on Cops. So that's the current plan. But another idea came up about going southbound on Cops towards Jeffrey as well, towards Bower Park. So we'll see.
How big is that grant?
It's big enough to cover it. Yeah, so it'll cover the whole thing. And I guess it's a lots of grants, so you can get, you can ask for even more money too. So I think we're gonna go for the big kahuna if we can. Yeah. It's 100% coverage, if approved, which we don't really, I think, worry about that. And then the last conversation was around public participation and just trying to do some standardization for public meetings. And there was a lot of conversation online in advance of that conversation. No one is trying to eliminate and kind of decrease the amount of public participation in meetings. There's no censorship going on. It's simply a need to start standardizing public participation for our 60 plus boards and commissions that are out there, making sure that everybody's, working to the same guidelines. These will be guidelines that can be, kind of pushed and pulled a little bit. But it's something that we think is very important to attach to agendas to make sure people are sort of monitoring to the same playbook, so.
But your guidelines that you're talking about are exact same ones that we have.
It's funny, I start using some of yours too in my meeting, so,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
I think there's a misconception in the public, just that that business meetings by Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen are, for back and forth commentary,
Correct.
which they are not.
They are not, and we're not obligated to provide public comment. We do it at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. In theory, we could do it once, we could do it none. They are business meetings. That's a really important point. I'm glad you said that.
And a lot of it is just dictated by Robert's rules.
Robert's rules and, but I think a lot of the meetings have started to, and some of the other committees have started to get a little rabble rousing. And we need to kind of rein it in a little bit. So it was a good sort of pulse reminder, just that, kind of we all need to be working towards the same level of guidelines, and that, nobody's trying to eliminate comments. It's just a matter of making sure that we're allowing the boards to do their business too. So that didn't sound right.
Well, and ultimately, if you have guidelines for, fairness, fair engagement for
Yeah.
everybody, then you get to hear more voices, and you don't
100%.
get situations where, a board might decide, well, we're just not gonna do this because we're not getting our work done.
Right.
So it actually supports more dialogue and more public participation.
I think so. And there was one sort of controversial topic that was in the guidelines about talking about town employees by name and how that might. So we're tweaking the language, I think, a little bit more. But the spirit of it is not, public flogging. It's, there's appropriate channels for those communications, whether it be the ethics board, whether it be HR, whether there's a lot of different, Board of Selectmen email addresses. There's appropriate channels maybe to have a conversation, about somebody in the town. So we felt pretty strongly about that one too.
And of course, I don't know about the town, but on the Board of Ed side, we have contractual commitments that, we have to deal with personnel situations a certain way. And allowing open dialogue about this person claims that teacher X did Y can violate that.
Yeah, and there's a fine line too of talking about, in our case, maybe not as contractual as you guys, but about a project and how the project is being managed as opposed to maybe the individual managing it. And there's, to me, ways around that. How you speak about people is important, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say, like when we found that we had a particularly hot topic, Dr. Cook had offered a public forum specifically on that one topic. So that people could feel that they were being heard and could voice their concerns to us, but it wouldn't interrupt our business meeting.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what public hearings are for. You know, we've done them on the sidewalk as an example already. We do them on any of those big topics, and that's exactly, that's the medium for back and forth and asking questions as opposed to in meetings, which is really just comment only. Good
Good
stuff.
luck.
Yes, I mean, but yes, we'll follow your lead, I think.
I think we have a question here, and then I want to see if any of the board members.
I'm just curious, all of the decorations we have downtown, the wreaths and everything else, is that town budget, is
Yeah.
that chamber of commerce?
Yep, town budget.
Any board
The
members
intent is to
online?
move that project to a fundraising effort down the road, but we're slowly, we actually used ARPA money. So to fund it this year.
Any board members online have any questions for our board?
I like hard questions, Miller and Lewis.
No? Okay,
Thank you for the update. It was nice to see you, Scott.
You too,
thank you. Thank you very much.
of course.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Hope to see you again.
Yes,
Yes.
anytime you need, me, I'm here.
All right, moving on to the superintendent's report, Dr. Cook.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Klaskin. Just a few things tonight, and some of them will kind of step on the toes of committee chair, so I apologize, but I think it's important for us to cover it thoroughly and multiple times, so it'll be good, hopefully. Just wanted to share, as our student rep had shared, it was a great NEAS visit. We had a wonderful wrap up with the committee, and heard good things. They're usually a little bit close to the vest with that, because they still have a lot of work to do in terms of writing the report. It will typically take about 6 months from now. There's quite a vetting process that they go through, and they'll still be writing probably for another month or two their report, but they were very positive towards us and those 3 areas that the board is aware of that we were working on from the first visit 2 years ago. They saw great growth and told us we hit the curriculum mark, which was really the hardest in terms of the amount of work and support needed from the board. I think, you know, because it's ongoing. You know, the rooftop units is kind of a one-time push. Not that was easy, but I think that curriculum work was huge. So thank you, Gail, for all your work on that, supporting the high school. But we expect a positive report sometime in the spring when that comes out. So that's great. The finance committee took a look at CIP. We've been talking about this quite a bit since the Board of Selectmen gave us some feedback with the addition, as you know, of the roof, which is a $3.5 million project. We needed to review the full CIP, knowing that we need to prioritize the roof at Daniel Hand High School. So you know, I think that we've made some reductions that do have an impact, but I see them as you know, smaller impact when we're prioritizing a pretty major project. And the work at Polson really lessens the impact of this work, as well as the town's incredible flexibility with the process in terms of allowing us to apply some grant funding that you know, will definitely be received on the roof to offset that cost. So we'll go over that in detail later, but I just wanted to keep the board updated in terms of that progress. And you know, it was not easy, but we're also being mindful of our operating budget, which will be also part of that calculation that the Board of Finance ultimately needs to look at. And then finally, we're hopefully wrapping up the non-lapsing educational fund request. So as the board's aware, we finished last year with $141,189. You know, of a balance. The new law allows us to expend those funds. We had 2 items we were looking to extend that as part of the action item, and it is the 2 items that I've been sharing all along. It's the athletic scoreboard for Daniel Hand High School, so it's the field right outside of Daniel Hand, and then work on the preschool classrooms is the $121,000 would go towards the preschool classrooms at Brown. And then really there's only 2 classrooms that have been untouched at Brown once we get that work done. You know, really 2 areas that we still have left to look at. So we're in really a great spot at Brown School for that to open as an elementary school next year, and the scoreboard's replacing I think it's our oldest scoreboard, pretty sure about that, and it had failed us a couple times this fall, so it'd be great to have that in place for spring lacrosse when that opens up, and other activities that we use for that field. But it's been a very busy fall, especially at the high school, but certainly at all of our schools. We did also notify our certified staff, so all of our teachers, our school psychologists, our school counselors, of their locations and assignments for next year, very early, but it was something that they have been asking to hear of earlier, and the administration's been working on for well over a year. So we released that, and it's allowed us to have some good conversations with people about that, and some tough ones, but I would say the vast majority of people were pleased with that, with the assignments and also the timing. I think they appreciated that, and it's giving them some time to think about like their new placement. So everyone in that category is moving. Very rare that they're staying in the same building even. So everybody has to move. So it's allowing them to get into that mindset. And like I said, I think there were some tough conversations, but there were also, for the most part, people were pleased with their assignment, and we did get input from all of them to try and accommodate that as much as possible. But some of them were just not possible with our new structure. So still more to come, and I think that as the year goes on, we'll even have better news for some folks that were impacted by the changes. So that concludes my report.
I have a question. So the non-lapsing education fund, the request is the action item number 11 tonight, right?
Yes.
So that total is 141, 189.
No, I'm sorry. It's yes, yeah, 11.
Yeah. Oh, I see, there's 2 11s.
Second 11. Sorry.
Yeah, the second 11, the first 11. I don't know if you're gonna want a motion to fix that, so. But anyway, so if we are approve the 141, 189, which is the total of that, how much is left in the non-lapsing education reserve?
0. So we would zero it out, which is our intention, and then as our process that we agreed to, we'll notify the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance of what it was extended on, how much it was, and that it would be zeroed out as we start the new budget process. Continue the new year budget process.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Craig on the superintendent's report?
So I have a question about the CIP. So the way that the CIP reductions, right? Hold on. So it says it's reductions for years 26 to 30. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, when I looked at, for instance, the Polson door hardware updates, you're saying that it's a savings of 200,000, right? So then if I looked under Polson door hardware updates, like I see that we've already expended in 23-24 and in 24-25, and then there's nothing for like 10 years. Like what needed to be finished and where did it go?
Sure. So there's still a lot of work to be done in that area. That will be part of the Greater Polson project through the
Okay, that's why it's no longer in CIP, it's moved completely out into the other.
Yeah, so when we
Okay.
developed the CIP, we had not determined that plan or moved that plan forward. So now that plan has moved forward, and there is additional funds for Polson beyond just the auditorium and
Okay,
air conditioning.
so and does that also go for other things at Polson? Okay.
Pretty much everything at
Now it
Polson,
makes sense why
yes.
the numbers disappeared. I'm like,
Yeah.
something does not make sense here. Is it
Yeah,
just me or?
It was reabsorbed elsewhere.
Right, we're in a much better
Good.
position, basically, again, just looking at 4 buildings. One being brand new, the high school after the roof gets done will be, a great place, and the roof at Polson part of that project as well. So we're that move, and then going to 4 buildings has really put us in a great spot for CIP.
So my other question, so the Daniel Hand High School roof replacement, it's just like one number in the 2930 column. And like we have started putting under planning and engineering 25,000. We skipped 24, 25, but every year after, excuse me, after that is 25,000. So we used to see it in the CIP as like the year before, and now we will no longer see that because we're doing the 25,000 every year to go towards whatever we need for planning and engineering. Is that?
I think it really will depend on the project, you know, if the project requires some real design work. So for instance, one project that's going forward this year, the baseball field, so they're looking at can they shift that a little bit to have stands on both sides on first base and third base? Right now it's only on the first base line. So things like that will require some design.
You
I
might
think
see
that
it
we
again.
look at
Okay.
the way that Bill did this, which was you know, worked for us so well for so many years, that design work to be in that first year. But that $25,000 that Bill proposed really does allow us to put some of that forward in the roof project. You know, it's a pretty straightforward design from what they're sharing with me, so it wouldn't require that. So that's, you're right, that's the good case in some of these projects.
So then my other question about the roof replacement for Hand is that, so this summer, we're putting on new rooftop units at Hand. And, but we're gonna have to move those units when you replace the roof, or
So,
they're
no.
replacing the roof now
Yeah.
under those units and
Excellent.
then.
So excellent question. So there are basically pads on the roof that the rooftop units go. So we shouldn't have to be replacing this 20 years out, you know, of a new building. But the benefit of that is it is designed to have those rooftop units, so they're not putting it into like the roofing membrane. There's already a pad there that we can continue to use. Take that off, and then the benefit of as well is we're not impacting the new roof at all. So you know, any warranty could be, you know, there could be an argument whether we've impacted if we do something to the roof after. So this will allow us to put the new roof around those pads and then have a full, you know, warranty.
Thank you.
Yes, great. That was a good question.
Okay.
Any other questions for Superintendent? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on to, thank you, Craig, let's move on to board members' comments. Any comments? Any board members online have a comment? Anyone presently? I will just say once again, we attended, past tense now, the CABE conference. We were there in force with 5 members, which was fantastic, plus our superintendent and assistant superintendent. We did receive that CABE Board of Distinction Award. And we got to have our pictures taken with the commissioner, the education commissioner. It was a fantastic program. Once again, we got to attend seminars and you know, build our, you know, professional knowledge as board members. It was really great. Thank you all for you know, those who attended, and we should continue to do that in the future. Any other board member comments? Seeing none. Any audience response to information presented? No, okay. Now we move on to our board committees and liaison updates, and we begin with Curriculum and Student Development Committee. Stephen.
We did not meet since the last report. That being said, I would like to draw attention of the board members to something that's very related to a curriculum, which is an article that came out in the December issue of Atlantic that speaks to, the title of the article is How One Woman Became the Scapegoat of America's Reading Crisis by Helen Lewis. And our assistant superintendent was interviewed for that article, and, you know, comments, I think, spoke very clearly to the issue overall and the district's stance and its impact. So as I read the article, you know, my impression was this is something that every one of our board members really should read, because it's a great comprehensive summation.
Can you share it?
And then I just thought in general, it's something that all board members should read, I mean, nationally. In that same issue, an article that is getting widespread national discussion was by David Brooks, How the Ivy League Broke America. And again, something that's, I think, worth our time as we try and stay current on what it means in education and to be a board member in the 21st century.
Could you share those with us, please, or share it with me and I'll disseminate them?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a question. The program of studies that were, is an action item tonight. Should I ask questions now under this committee report or later when we're voting on it?
Yes, now during this committee report.
So my questions are. So the CTE department update, there's removal of course offerings of creative cooking and chefs at hand. I was just wondering why. Was it like low enrollment or no one's interested?
Yeah. They were replaced with two courses that students were polled about and had great interest in, so.
And then the removal of course offering, it says geometry level 3. Is it just the level that's being removed on that one?
Yes.
And then it said geometry prerequisite change. The prerequisite is 8th grade algebra 1 with a minimum of B- or successful completion of high school algebra 1. What is it changed from?
There was an additional prerequisite and it was made easier to be able to take it, right?
Yeah,
Is that
it gave greater access, is predominantly the changes overall.
And then the course name changed from intro to calculus to calculus. Was there any content change or just the name?
No, actually, they did an audit across several districts and realized that our name was not reflective of what the course
It's not really
was.
intro, it's just calc.
Was, yeah.
Okay.
So the rigor was already there, so they just changed it because the kids seemed to think it was more remedial than it was.
And then in the theater department update, I know that in the past there has been quite an interest in the acting, etc. courses, and I know that there were some parents who felt like we didn't offer enough or a good diversity of it, of more, they wanted like, directing separate from acting or what, I don't even remember what it was now, but there was definitely very specific requests regarding the theater department. And so I see there's new course offerings and removal of course offerings, and I was just wondering, how the new course offerings compare to like what the parents were asking for and what the students.
Very, very much in keeping with that. Students actually had a lot of input into that course, in particular students who were interested in taking theater courses. So you'll see that it's got a little bit of stage production as well as production in general. And the courses that existed were really more academic in terms of studying different plays and writing, which wasn't really suiting the needs of our theater interested kids. So we discontinued those courses. Some of them have not run as a result of one being a prerequisite of the other. And the course that was added in was very much driven by interest and input. So I thank Selena De Silva for working on that. She put a lot of time and energy into pulling the students as well.
And is it the same instructors or teachers for the courses? They're just.
Currently this year, there's been a different instructor for that course than has been in the past. I don't know about the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All my questions.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you
Thanks for your
for asking.
interest.
I was just interested.
Good.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Facilities Committee, Emily.
No report since last time. Our next meeting is December 10th at 6:30.
Okay. Finance Committee, Galen.
Thank you, Seth. We met at 5:30 today. Emily and I were in attendance along with you as ex officio. Craig, Stacy Novitz, and Peter from facilities also were in attendance. We covered the proposed changes that Dr. Cook talked about to the CIP. Wanted to thank the Board of Selectmen for their guidance and understanding and working with the board to get that done. I think Peter and Ben Whitaker, Stacy and Craig also did a fantastic job to find these savings, moves, reductions and rebates to make it happen. So we have an itemized list, of course, in your packet. Next up was the non-lapsing reserve fund. The third item was just about the budget dates for the calendar this year. This Monday, the central office administrative team meets to discuss things. Next Wednesday, the administrative council meets. The budget comes to the finance committee on December 17th. The budget should be distributed to the rest of the board on December 20th. We'll have a workshop on January 7th. And hopefully a vote, Board of Ed vote on it on January 21st. The referendum is on May 6th. Lastly, we discussed sources of uncertainty or budget variability. They include, of course, health insurance, electricity, possibility of solar panels on Neck River, and then the associated costs with reducing the number of schools. The meeting was adjourned at 5:55.
Any questions for finance chair? No? Well, any? Personnel committee, Maureen.
Hello, the Personnel Committee has not met since we last met, so we do not have an update today,
Your dog has a lot to say about that. Thank you.
apparently.
Okay, policy committee, everyone sit tight. We have a big
Yeah,
policy
it's a lot
committee
tonight.
report from Diane.
Well, these
So-
are my favorite, I love them.
So, we did meet tonight, but first, before I discuss the meeting, I just wanna call attention to your packet for tonight. We have a second read policies for review and their action items this evening. And I just wanted to point out that, so we have policy 1370, non-discrimination. We also have, there are 3 non-discriminations policies. They are all very similar with the same changes, updated to be in compliance with statutes. So it's 1370 non-discrimination, 4118.1 non-discrimination, that's in the personnel series, and 5020.1 non-discrimination, which is in the student series. And we also have 4030.5 family and medical leave, 4118.14, section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, that's in the personnel series, and the 5200 series, section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and that's in the student series. So those are for our second read and action items this evening. We met tonight. Boy, did we have a lot to do. So we discussed policies for rescission, and of the policies for rescinding, the committee recommended that we waive the second read when we move it forward to the board. And we agreed with Shippen and Goodwin for rescinding the following policies: 6080.2 English Language Arts Education, 6080.19.3.4 role of the school psychologist, 6080.19.3.5 role of school counselors, 6080.19.3.6 role of instructional paraprofessionals. Those were recommended to be rescinded because those are really about job descriptions and they're not really policies. The first one, English Language Arts Education, is there's no other policies sort of discussing what should be taught. That's under curriculum. And so there's nothing about math and science. And so this is just a really outdated policy. Then we talked about 6080.20 school-wide pre-referral approaches and interventions, scientific research-based interventions, or SRBI. That is more appropriately under special education. 6100.14.3 resource center, media centers, and school library. That is also an outdated policy. We have newer policies with updated technology. This is old and outdated. 6110.7.2 graduation exercises. There was a lot of, it's old, there's a lot of outdated language regarding graduation requirements and what they can say in a speech, et cetera. It would need a lot of revamping. That's really not necessary. So they recommended rescission. 6120 evaluation of instructional programs. 6152 grouping for instruction. 7110 educational facilities planning and capital programming. These are all outdated policies. They recommended rescission. The notes for those will be included when it comes forward to the board at the next meeting. Those again, we recommend for waiving the second read and for rescission. Then we talked about policies for review. This is the fun part. So first we also added to the agenda policy 9210, role of board and members. What we discussed with that is we've already updated that policy in the last April. We had discussed at our board retreat about having the board have part of its duties and responsibilities to not annually, but periodically review and revise our mission statement and vision statements. And so all we're doing to that 9210 bylaw is to add in that is one of our responsibilities. Then we discussed further that any revisions to the mission policy or vision statement, or vice versa, we would like the board to vote on and have a 2/3 vote. So we're not going to move it into the 9000 series because that's really guiding board actions, but we did feel that it should have a 2/3 vote versus just a majority of those present vote. And so we're recommending those changes in that language, and that will be a 2 read and come before the board for a 1st read at the next meeting. Then we discussed a new policy, and we gave it a new number, 6050, parental access to instructional material. This is a required new policy from the state statute. This is regarding parental access to instructional materials, which we pretty much have most of it widely accessible from our website. However, this is a new statute and we must have this policy. It's very short and sweet and required. And so we are going to recommend when we move it forward to the board to waive the 2nd read as well. Then we discussed the new policy, weighted grading and calculations of grade point averages and rank in class, and this will be number 6040. So the state statute requires a calculation of GPA and class rank percentile for purposes of the CAAP, the Connecticut Automatic Admissions Program. And so this is required by statute, and so we have this incorporated into the new policy and added in what we want from our old policy, which is 5128 rank in class. So we discussed the wording about final rank in class with regards to the old policy where we talk about being a student at Daniel Hand High School without interruption, and that the rank in class is based on 9 trimesters of study. But the new revised policy from Shipman and Goodwin didn't specifically say 9 semesters or trimesters or continuous. And so we kind of debated that for a while. And so Dr. Cook is going to take that back to the administration and TJ and the guidance counselors and discuss how they would like it worded, what they've been doing. It's not a common scenario where someone would be coming from another school and finishing at Hand, but we wanted to make sure that it was fair to Daniel Hand High School students. And so we want to see what have they done in the past, what do they want to do going forward, so it'll come back to policy and then you'll see it. And then the final policy that we discussed was the old policy 0100/6010, our mission. And we had discussed this at our retreat, but our retreat, we didn't actually have all of our Board of Ed members present. So that's the first issue. And then we did have a revised change to 6010, just left off the 0100. And it's called District Mission and Vision. And then there was much discussion about, should this be a policy? Should it just be District Mission and Vision? We bandied that around for a while. And Dr. Cook brought up the point that if it's not a policy, then it might not get reviewed as frequently or periodically like it should be. We don't want it to get lost. When it's included in with the policies and with a number, it's easy to find. You can see when it was revised, all that good stuff. And so then, but then we also discussed, is this something that just the policy committee should be revamping and revising when it's a whole Board of Ed vision mission statement? And so then it was like, do we make a committee? Do we send it back? Do we have another retreat? Do we just let policy do it? And I'll hack it up into little pieces. How should we handle this? And so we felt that we should, in my report, discuss this with the whole board. And we do think it needs input from all of us, including those that were not at our retreat. But if we decide that we want to keep it a policy, we would take it out of the 6,000 series, put it back in the 0, whatever, 0100, 0001, whatever. But that way it would be in the very first page of all of our policies, because it is a mission vision statement. And it's not really a policy that guides what we do or how we work, but it kind of is, but it's kind of not. And so therein lies room for debate. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. So there's no real action item on that, so I'd like to take the opportunity now to just discuss one thing that we discussed at the policy meeting is potentially, and I could tell that there are several board members who have expressed concerns with the current version, the proposed version of the mission and vision statement. And because the mission and vision is very important, especially to a mission-driven organization that has all of our profiles of a graduate and all of our course, offerings and the kind of filter up to that mission, even down through curriculum. I really want the board to own the mission statement and the vision. And so instead of just kind of rushing this and going with what we were able to accomplish with limited time at the retreat with not everybody present, we discussed at the policy committee having a potential additional retreat in the spring after the budget season is over. And really kind of dig into this so that everybody gets input and we can find language that everybody's comfortable with, or at least 2/3 of us are comfortable with. And there's some people think the mission is almost besides the point, but a lot of people feel that the mission is very much the point and very important. So I think it does warrant taking a little bit of extra time, having another retreat, and really trying to have a meeting of the minds on what we stand for and what we want our faculty and administrators to project and model, and what we want our students to learn and inculcate. So that's what I recommend. I think there was some discussion that other people felt comfortable with that approach, having an additional retreat in the spring to nail this down better. I'd like to open it to discussion.
So we did say that we would have the retreat so that everybody could get input, but it would come back to policy because it would technically be numbered and in the policy section. And then just like every policy, it would then come back to the board. There would be 2 reads. So plenty of time for more revision, for more discussion. And then, and also at the time of the vote, it would require a 2/3 vote of the entire board. But we got to put that in, so entire board, not just 2/3 vote. And I lost my point.
And that's pretty much the track we were following now, because
Yeah.
we had the new proposed mission and vision statement on the policy committee agenda. And that's what, resulted in this broader discussion. So, I think that would be a good compromise. Like, it's good to have a committee have some cognizance to keep it moving and to be, the start of where the final wordsmithing may occur, but that would be after everyone gets input at a full retreat. Any thoughts, questions online?
Yeah, I have a number of thoughts.
Sure.
First off, I truly and deeply appreciate the work that the policy committee has done on this. First, in identifying that what we currently have is obsolete, because it is. 2, in being sensitive that this is an important issue, and at least, a subset of board members believe it's an important issue, so that it ought to become a larger conversation. So, I really appreciate that. I very much agree with the idea of having this become a full board conversation and a retreat. One, because personally, I think that outcome and what we come up with as a result of that is the template around which so much of our work is. But in the very least, I think it's a really constructive conversation among the board members that we grapple with it and think about it, because it, you know, for me, it's at the heart of what the board is about. We are supposed to be representatives of the community in advancing the education in this town and the mission, and I think the mission is central to that. And those kinds of conversations are unbelievably healthy and constructive, because we get caught up in the day-to-day work all the time, which is important work. But we don't often get back to what is the umbrella of that work. So, you know, I absolutely support the, you know, what is being suggested.
There's no rush on it. I mean, this is not something that we want to change very often. You want to keep it updated and current, but so, and we certainly don't want to interrupt budget.
Okay.
So,
Better to measure twice and cut once. Anyone else, any thoughts on it? I guess I'll take the measure of the room. Basically is it seems like everyone's okay with planning a retreat. I don't think we need a vote on it. But we can plan a spring retreat sometime in later May after the referendum. Maybe,
Sounds good to me.
okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Diane, good report. Any last questions for Diane on policy? Going once, going twice, okay, thank you. And last on our committee reports, Learn Liaison, Mary Ann had to start her Thanksgiving travel early, and she asked me to provide a report to the board from the Learn Liaison. So Learn met on October 10th. They have a superintendent presentation. Usually this time it wasn't presented by a superintendent, but by Jill Bassett, who is a multilingual linguistics director at Learn. The Connecticut legislature passed the Parents' Bill of Rights for English learners and multilingual learners in July of 24. That document, the Parents' Bill of Rights, includes 15 rights divided into 3 areas. The first being translation and interpretation, the second being equity, and the third being programming. Jill stressed that training and family engagement are extremely important. And I was happy to hear about that family engagement part, because I know that we have been having several social events to try and help the English multilingual learners and their families to kind of integrate in our district. And that's fantastic that we were already heading in that direction long before even the legislature passed that. The other thing that happened was the executive director shared the 2024 CABE law summaries, and some discussion ensued. And also there were committee reports, and some additional information was shared about happenings around the region and state related to education. So that's it for the Learn Liaison report. I hope there are no questions, because I would not be able to answer them. So thank you, Mary Ann.
so,
Yes,
do we need to have a motion to renumber the action item?
I'm gonna get to that when we get to that action item. I'm gonna take cognizance and see if we can do it by acclamation. If that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So action item number 9, we have a motion to approve the 2020, I need a motion to approve the 2025-2026 Daniel Hand High School Program of Studies
So
as
moved.
discussed. So Stephen,
Second,
seconded by Diane. Thank you. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, I'll bring it to a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Action item 10. I need a motion to approve the revised 2025-2026 CIP proposal as was discussed during the Finance Committee report.
so moved.
Right, so Emily, thank you. Do I have a second?
So, second,
Diane?
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Discussion?
It would be great
What's
if we, if we got a copy of the previous CIP and then like the new CIP when we get it, so I can like compare and contrast the changes.
Sounds like a great idea.
It's a lot of paper.
Not.
I'm surprised you can even read it, because it's very tiny.
It is very tiny, and it was-
It's got a magnifying glass, I'm sure.
on a computer, you can do this.
Yeah. So duly noted, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries 7-0. I think you'll be the first Board of Selectmen member to know that, to hear that, and you can report it back to your colleagues. Action item 11. I need a motion to approve the return of $326,633 in CIP capital non-recurring expenses project balances to the CIP CNRE master account.
So moved.
Emily, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Lynn, thank you. All right, so as part of our effort to pare down on what we were seeking for CIP over the next 5 years, as Dr. Cook explained, the town was happy to accept some of that in the form of returns from projects that we already had open. And so that's what this line is about. If there's any discussion.
So is that a separate like fund? I mean, is it like, I'm not like, the money's just like hanging out somewhere?
Well, it was money that was issued for specific projects
And then it wasn't
and it's
spent?
left over. It wasn't expended.
Okay,
So we're able to round that up and contribute that back as part of the other town.
So
leaders
encumbered,
ask.
not spent.
What's that?
Encumbered, not spent.
Encumbered but not spent, yes.
thank you.
So we didn't, so by voting to do this now, we don't have to find an additional 326,000 and
And
change.
do we not normally do this?
No, we do, so one example would be, we had money left, and we had money in a Jeffrey Boiler account.
Okay, yeah, okay. So
Recently,
those
so
are like just single item things that we did, but this is like a bunch of,
it's the 3 accounts that are in that, it's the hand lighting, the track resurfacing, and then the brown FF&E reduction.
nice.
So yeah, it's something that some are there for longer than others. That track resurfacing is a really old one. That the stage lighting at hand was just a couple of years ago that got done. The brown FF&E is going on now, but with good quotes in for moving and things like that, we thought we could make that reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? No, seeing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, the chair takes cognizance of the fact that there was an accidental renumbering of the next action item. It was also called action item or labeled action item 11. So unless there's any objection, I would like to call for this action item coming up to be renumbered as action item 12. And then renumber the rest of the action items and the rest of the agenda items accordingly.
You could make it 11B, and then you don't have to renumber the other ones.
I mean, they're not related. I mean, I could do that, but
It's your chair.
I mean, is it any harder? I'll put it to Zoe. Is it any harder to renumber them versus making it 11B?
Do whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
My OCD would like it to be renumbered.
And I don't see any objection, so we'll just handle it that way. So this next action item will be action item number 12, renumbered from 11. And I need a motion to approve the use of funds from the non-lapsing education reserve for the following items as discussed in the superintendent's report. Athletics scoreboard in the amount of $19,687 and pre-kindergarten classroom renovations at Brown School in the amount of $121,502. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Diane, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Emily, thank you. Any discussion on this? Discussion, seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, newly numbered action item 13. I need a motion to approve the following policies. 1370 non-discriminate, are these rescissions?
No, this is a
Oh,
second,
these are-
rescind and replace.
Rescind and replace, okay. So I do need a motion to approve the following policies. 1370 non-discrimination, 4030.5 family and medical leave, 4118.1 non-discrimination, 4118.14 section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. 5020.1 non-discrimination, 5200 section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990.
So
Moved by Diane. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Steve, thank you. Any discussion on these? They were covered fully in the policy report. So there was justification given for these. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstention, motion carries 7-0, thank you. Newly numbered action item number 14. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12th, 2024 Board of Education meeting.
so moved.
Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Emily, thank you. Any recommended edits or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Now, agenda item 15, any requests for future agenda items? Going once, going twice, sold. And then final, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Diane, seconded by.
Second.
That's true.
Do we have a board member seconding?
Second.
Maureen, okay, thank you, Maureen. From our board, you're a board member, just not this one. That would be to adjourn at 8:30. Yeah, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions, all right, we are adjourned, thank you.